Number 9. Poorly positioned prop. Adult webcam model Lauren Hunter Damon was filming an intimate scene with her roommate's gun in her home in Georgia last year when she accidentally discharged a weapon, firing a bullet into her private area. In what one witness described as a pornographic video gone horribly wrong, the 27-year-old was using the 9mm handgun to entertain her audience one morning when 2 of her 3 housemates heard a blast. The gun's owner, Jordan Allen, ran into Lauren's room and found her with blood dripping down her leg, according to a police report. Allen said that Lauren apologized profusely to him for the mishap, and he explained the nature of her profession to the responding officers. The report claims that Lauren gave conflicting stories about what exactly happened, leaving it unclear whether she was alone when the accidental gunshot fired or if she was involved in a consensual act with Allen. Either way, police said that the behavior was reckless, but unlikely to result in any criminal charges. Lauren was flown to a hospital for treatment and, luckily for her, seemed to be recovering well from the ordeal. She was released a few days later. Number 8. Reckless roulette. In early 2019, St. Louis police officer Nathaniel Hendren had 2 colleagues over at his house while he was supposed to be on duty, including his patrol partner and 24-year-old fellow cop, Catlin Alex. Hendren and Alex were reportedly playing with guns and taking turns pulling the trigger on a revolver in what bore a concerning resemblance to the deadly game of Russian roulette. There was 1 bullet in the gun. Hendren spun the cylinder and pulled the trigger, but the revolver did not discharge. Alex then pulled the trigger while pointing the gun at Hendren. Once again, it didn't fire. Their luck ran out when Hendren took the gun back. This time, a bullet fired straight into Alex's chest, and she was pronounced dead at the hospital. The other officer who was hanging out with the pair told investigators that he had warned them not to play with guns. As he was leaving, he heard the fatal shot. The St. Louis Circuit Attorney's Office accused the St. Louis police of essentially botching the investigation and said that there was reason to believe that drugs or alcohol may have played a role in the tragedy. Hendren admitted that he and Alex had both consumed alcohol that night and maintained that he did not mean to shoot Alex and that he was devastated. He pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and was sentenced to 7 years behind bars. The case raised numerous questions about the nature of Hendren and Alex's relationship. Alex was married, but Hendren claimed that they were lovers and that they planned to move in together before he accidentally killed her. The slain woman's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Hendren, whose attorney responded by saying that Alex participated in the Russian roulette game voluntarily and that Hendren owes her family nothing. Number 7. A nearly fatal friendship with benefits. A 32-year-old woman took a bullet to the abdomen after she and her housemate/friend with benefits, 28-year-old Cortez Gill, got into a physical tussle during an argument in their Saginaw, Michigan home late last year. Believing that Gill had shot her by accident, the woman instructed him to get help. Instead, Gill allegedly replied, "See what you made me do," and shot her again. She grabbed her daughter and fled the home, but only got as far as a neighbor's yard when she collapsed and fell unconscious. By the time police arrived, Gill had left the scene, but they quickly identified him as their main suspect and began searching for him. They approached him during a traffic stop shortly after issuing an armed and dangerous warning about the man. The woman woke up days later in the hospital to learn that she had been shot a total of 9 times. By then, Gill had been arrested and charged with assault with intent to murder and felony possession of a firearm. If convicted of the intent to murder charge, he could face a lifetime behind bars. Gill's victim recently testified in court that she believes the first shot he fired was accidental, but that the second shot was intentional. She doesn't remember the next 7 shots. Number 6. A cop's costly error. Devion Smith went to visit his father in Grand Rapids, Michigan late last year. He parked his car and went inside, only to exit the home not long after and and found police officers surrounding his vehicle. The Grand Rapids Police Department would later claim that Devion's car possibly matched the description of a stolen vehicle, so officers followed him to his dad's house, where they set up a perimeter and waited for him to leave. During their rush to confront Smith, Officer Gregory Bauer accidentally fired his gun. The bullet damaged a nearby home and just narrowly missed Smith, who, as it turned out, had not stolen the car. He owned the vehicle that he was driving and had done absolutely nothing wrong. Officer Bauer was charged with misdemeanor careless discharge of a firearm. Bodycam footage shows the cop running towards Smith with his gun raised, at which point Smith had his hands in the air and appeared fully prepared to cooperate. The audio and video don't match up properly due to equipment issues, making the situation difficult to dissect. But when Smith asked Officer Bauer why he fired his gun, the policeman allegedly said that he had tripped. Local station News 8 has filed several Freedom of Information requests in hopes of obtaining more footage and getting a better idea of exactly what happened. Meanwhile, Smith has filed a $7.5 million federal lawsuit against the city of Grand Rapids, the Grand Rapids Police Department, and Officer Bauer for mental and physical anguish, loss of enjoyment, and the post-traumatic stress. Additionally, Smith has requested that all officers undergo cultural sensitivity training and has requested a jury trial. Number 5. A coincidental catastrophe. Early on in 2022, a 56-year-old man named Jim Hunt was shot and killed by a fellow motorist while driving in Philadelphia's Upper Darby Township. Surveillance footage showed the suspect's car pulling up next to the man's Mercedes right near a school before firing the fatal bullet and speeding off. Police soon connected the vehicle to 28-year-old Lloyd Amersing, who turned himself in with his lawyer by his side. Lloyd faces charges of third-degree murder, involuntary manslaughter, and possessing an instrument of crime. The driver's side window of Hunt's car was rolled down when police found it, suggesting that perhaps he had gotten into a verbal confrontation with Lloyd and that it led to the suspect firing his gun. But Lloyd's lawyer claimed that his client's gun misfired twice and that the shooting was completely unintentional. According to this version of events, Lloyd was celebrating a recent unemployment payment that he had received. He was unloading his gun at a stoplight with loud music playing when the weapon accidentally went off. Lloyd claimed that he was reclined in his seat when it all happened, which would explain why the gun was positioned in a way where it would be unintentionally aimed in Hunt's direction. Meanwhile, an autopsy determined Hunt's manner of death as a homicide. Whether Lloyd's narrative will hold up in court remains to be seen. Number 4. Friendly fire from next door. 22-year-old Maxwell Williamson was cleaning his gun at home in Gwinnett County, Georgia late last year when the firearm accidentally discharged, sending a bullet through the wall and into the apartment next door. It struck Williamson's neighbor, 36-year-old actress Carletha Foley. She was shot in the head and killed while she was sleeping innocently in her bed. Police initially had no idea what had happened when they responded to an unknown medical call at Foley's residence and found her unresponsive with a bullet hole in the wall. Foley's teenage son had found her and dialed 911. Williamson told police that he had completely forgotten that there was a bullet in the gun's chamber. According to local station KTRK, the suspect's lawyer claimed that Williamson had knocked on Foley's door to check and see if everything was okay after unintentionally firing the gun, but that there was no response. He wrote his neighbor a note offering to pay for the damage and went to work, totally unaware that he had shot and killed someone. Number 3. A freak explosion. Former Kentucky cop Scott DeShields Jr. is highly experienced in handling firearms and runs the popular YouTube channel Kentucky Ballistics. But even he is not immune to being harmed by a gun, as a nearly fatal mishap that happened last year proved. Shocking footage shows DeShields firing a Serbu RN-50 rifle when the gun suddenly explodes in his face, throwing him backwards and knocking his baseball cap off his head. He was left with a punctured lung and a hole in his jugular vein, and was extremely lucky to be alive. Speaking to his nearly 2 million followers after the accident, DeShields said that he should be 6 feet under and that he almost bit the dust. And it was clear, based on his swollen shut eye, bandages and injuries, that he probably wasn't exaggerating. He explained that he had been using expensive military ammunition that is no longer made, called slap rounds, when the ordeal occurred. The gun exploded immediately as soon as DeShields pulled the trigger, sending a steel cap from the gun straight into his face and leaving him temporarily blind with several broken facial bones. His father, who was at the scene, rushed over and stuck his thumb into DeShields' neck to stem the profuse bleeding, which DeShields credits with saving his life. They rushed to the hospital, where he was hooked up to seemingly countless machines as he fought for his life. Luckily, the YouTuber survived. He attributed his injuries to a freak accident and vowed to resume making gun-related videos as soon as possible. Number 2. Controversial confusion. Less than a year after former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin killed a helplessly subdued black man named George Floyd, officers from the nearby Brooklyn Center Police Department pulled over a 20-year-old black man named Duante Wright on suspicion of having an expired registration. In the process, they learned that Wright had an outstanding warrant. A brief struggle ensued while officers attempted to take the young man into custody. Believing she had her taser in her hand, Officer Kim Potter deployed the device twice, only to realize that she was holding her gun, not her taser, and that she had shot Wright twice. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Potter could be heard saying, "I just shot him," in bodycam footage of the ordeal, and she resigned from her position with the police department shortly after the incident. She was ultimately convicted of first and second-degree manslaughter. Potter's lawyers fought for probation, or at least a lighter sentence than what was recommended, claiming that the former cop had made an honest mistake amid a chaotic scene. The judge ruled favorably in this aspect, sentencing her to 16 months of jail time before serving out the rest of her sentence on supervised release. Wright's parents were left feeling disappointed, angry, and cheated by what they felt was a lack of justice for their son, and it's understandable. Even if Potter's mistake was totally unintentional, it cost a young man his life and took him away from his family. Incidents like this have fueled the ongoing controversy over police brutality and racial profiling, and have also caused many to feel that police need better firearms training, and that an officer of the law should not be prone to making such careless mistakes. The Wright family's attorney accused the judge of lacking compassion for the victim. On the other hand, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison said that he accepted the judge's verdict and urged the public to try to do the same. But his words apparently failed to impact even the prosecutor who pursued the case for his office, and who unsuccessfully made a last-ditch effort to persuade the judge to impose a harsher sentence on Potter. Number 1. A disastrous demonstration. Sergeant Aaron Martin of the Port St. Lucie, Florida Police Department was practicing drawing his gun from his holster in his third-floor office earlier this year when he accidentally fired the weapon. The Glock pistol's 9mm projectile struck a window, but luckily nobody was injured. Martin immediately reported the mishap to his supervisor and received a non-disciplinary corrective action known as a supervisor's conference form. Police Chief John Baldock told local news website TC Palm that Martin planned to go to the gun range the following day for training and qualification, and was practicing in anticipation of the event. But after removing the magazine, Martin forgot to take the cartridge out of the chamber, which explains the accidental discharge. He was alone in his office with the door closed, and was pointing the gun away from everyone else in the building when the incident occurred, according to Baldock. And while Martin's colleagues failed to find the spent projectile, they don't believe it went far because it appeared to have expended most of its energy on the window. Baldock summed up the incident in a few short words, stating, "It was an accident, and we don't believe he intended to shoot the window." The chief went on to say that anyone who understands police culture can probably imagine the type of good-natured flack Martin received from his co-workers after the embarrassing ordeal. All returned to normal at the Port St. Lucie Police Department, and Martin qualified at his training session the next day. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have a stray bullet enter your home and cause considerable damage while not hurting anyone, or lose power inside your home for 2 days because a car crashed into a nearby electric pole? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye.